The fire burning red in a Georgia representing of a comes hard here. You know. Big up Kidaki, Buxton massive. Hey Babylon boy, you go on like come son. Red.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money, I know what you can even money. Money, never money, money, never money, money, you can keep, you can even money. When you've been up for a bum, in a biz there be money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a biz there be money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money, now know what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. This is all the money that me walk for. I said money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. I know what you can have in money. Oh, Joseph.
Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in to Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Tom's TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruption over land and sea, where the wicked politician they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. Is one set of people getting aisle money. Is one set of people doing the thievery. Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see, sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, which has ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, fooling the people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, they got Breakford, Bork and Mark Benchcop. David Hines and Kadaki Amsterdam. Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London. Normal Brown and Gavin Matthews. Big up Paslow, Poor People Governor. Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson. Hampton Green and Winston Jordan. And yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Wyndham Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice.
And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show.
It's the PNCR fundraising bingo on Sunday, the 27th of October at Congress Place of Fire from 2 p.m. Over $5 million to be won. There will be 20 straight games at $100,000 per game, 3 letter games at $200,000 per game, 3 coverall games at $1 million per game. Tickets are $6,000. 1 ticket gets you 6 playing cards. Remember, it's the PNCR Big Fundraising Bingo on Sunday, the 27th of October at Congress Place of Fire from 2 p.m.
All right, so today we are here at Club Twilight up in Buxton, and we are here to talk about all that's going on up here. Trust me, if you are on the East Coast, you're in Buxton, you're in Tongue, you're looking for a place to get away to, this is the place. The Cutters, mwah. Listen, I'll be having some just now again. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, the ambience is beautiful, fully air conditioned. The decor is on point. The music's on point. Everything's on point. It's just me. I need some work. But everything else that belongs to this club here is on point. So if you want to find a nice little place where you can just drive out of town and have some drinks, have some food, you can call, you can order your stuff and just take it. You don't have to stay. Or if you want to stay here, that's what's up. And of course, they have special events for Valentine's. You can rent a hall. You can rent a hall, honey. You can rent a hall for weddings, for birthday parties, to have a bash. I hope he edits that out. But you know, whatever it is, this is definitely the place to be. So it's on Sideline Nam. You definitely want to ensure that you check this place out. But it's on your to-do list. All right, on your to-do list. This is definitely the place to check out, you know, a really cool, chill spot here in Buxton. I like this. This is, Buxton needed this. We needed this. I needed this. You definitely need it too. Thank you.
Stop running around like headless chicken. Go to Ashton's Marketplace for whole and cut chicken, beef, pork, processed meats like bacon, beef franks, smoked ham, ground pork, calabresa, and lots more. Ashton's offers wholesale and retail. Check them out. Call 613-2332 or WhatsApp 434-327-3955. Ashton's Marketplace at 72 Rob Street, Border.
Are you planning your next visit to Oil Ridge, Guyana, South America? Well, let's accommodate you at Varon's Cheerful Country Manor. With free secured on-premises parking, our beautiful vacation air-conditioned home offers 3 beds, 2 bathrooms, a spacious kitchen, and all modern amenities. Located at Tushen, on the eastern bank of the mighty Essequibo and the western coast of Demerara, Varon's Cheerful Country Manor is just a stone throw from the ocean. Make that reservation now on Airbnb and VRBO. For contact, call us on 516-770-3053 or 592-685-3521. Make Veron's cheerful country manor your home away from home.
Friday, November 1st, the place to be is at Club Twilight. Yours truly, Trinidad Madman. I will be coming to Guyana for the first time, live and alive in living colors, in Buxton at Twilight Sideline Dam for an event called Short Pants and Skirts. So ladies, all they come out in all their numbers, Twilight Sideline Dam in Buxton, East Coast Guyana. Buxton is going to be on a shutdown. So ladies, get all your short pants and skirts. Friday, November 1st, the place to be is at Club Twilight.
Comes out your son. You burn the swine when I want you shine. The tree of life, them I want you climb, cause them art not kind. Comes, I say them art not kind. Buxton Massive, Kidaki, Red Hat.
You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T and W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the East Rheinveld Market Meat Section. Call us on 609-7168, 641-4494. Ask for Rastaman. T and W Harris Butcher Shop, for the best in fresh cut meats and lots more.
Morning. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is 7 hours 31 on the 23rd day of October in the year 2024. Welcome to another program of the Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. How was your yesterday? What happened yesterday that made it significantly better than the days before? What happened last night? Did you rest and recuperate, or you were busy all night? Did you lie awake thinking about how you're putting food on the table this morning for your children, or how you're finding money to pay transportation today to go to work, or even what are you putting in your lunch bowl today? Those are as real as I speak about them. The many of our people today they don't know what their next meal looks like. What gives you hope today? What are your plans for getting by today? What are your plans for getting by today? Yeah, you might have set some smart goals. How do you see yourselves achieving those goals as set? You just have them in your head, or you got them on paper so you can revisit and you can tweak here and you can tweak there and so on. Modify your plans for success. Talk to me. I want to know that today. I seriously want to know that today. Let me tell you this week, that's tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, 18 hours. Colin Haynes is going to be on the program like we started last week, Health Inside Out. And he's going to be on the program with the former Chief Medical Officer. As former Chief Medical Officer of the public hospital. And they will be talking about HIV and AIDS, the Ghana situation. Yes, that's what they will be talking about. HIV and AIDS, the Ghana situation. So tune in. Tune into the program. And so you can, stay abreast with what's happening in this society. It's Wednesday. And we're supposed to have Dr. Hines in the house. Yes, we're supposed to have Dr. Hines in the house. And we're going to be talking about a number of things so long as he comes. But in the meantime, let me address some of the issues which I think people still are stuck on. I would think so. There's a Harish or somebody on this program who's talking about Obornum Band. For the life of me, I cannot understand why Indo-Guyanese, or especially Indo-Guyanese, have not moved on from Bornum years in this country. Especially the negatives, or what they consider the negatives. Because listen, every leader in the history of any society is going to have positive and negative traits. They would have implemented positive and negative policies that did well and policies that failed in any society. Do we dwell on the negatives all the time? Or we take the positives and work on them to improve them, to update them, to bring them into the current scenario? Imagine a man talking about
Bornum ban, here are the things that he's talking about Bornum ban. Sardines. In my mind, in my mind, sardine is like onto the lowest quality of seafood one can consume. Seafood. Sardines are small fries, as we call them, packed in some fancy tomato gravy or hot sauce or something and sold to poor people. People, I would say, who cannot necessarily afford to do better than eat sardine. Sardine is packed usually with even the gut. And that is what people fighting up over, who would ban sardine when it was replaced with smoked fish, salted fish. Where is your patriotism? Why should we spend scarce foreign currency to import some low quality food from our oppressors at the time? Why should we? And you hold that against your leader, or the country's leader, I should say, because he was showing you what is better and what is more nutritious and what is worth investing your money on. I don't know if he banned it. I really and truly don't know what were the things that were banned. I know there were some restrictions on some items. I understand the economic situation which caused those restrictions. But for me to sit and give you a list of things that were banned or not banned, I can't really tell you that because I've never really made it my business to go look for it. But I'm just saying there was an alternative, readily available alternative to sardine, to the consumption of sardine, and that alternative provided jobs for our people. And to a large extent, it provided jobs and enrichment for the people of these very, someone said to say, dishonest Indians who come onto this program and just keep harping about Bornum ban. Look at the fishing industry in this country. It's dominated by Indo-Guyanese. And so they should have been in high praise of Bornum for banning sardines because he made way for the fish caught to be consumed locally. In fact, he gave them a bigger chunk of the market. But no, there can be no praise, there can be no upliftment of that idea because it came from Bornum. Bornum ban evaporated milk. Really? Did we really need evaporated milk when we had fresh cow's milk? Again, the majority of people who benefited from the absence of evaporated milk would have been Indo-Guyanese because, again, they were the majority and still, I think, are the majority in the cattle industry. But no praise for Bornum, despite the fact that there was the LIDCO, Livestock Industry Development Company, LIDCO plant, which collected from coast to coast the milk produced by these very Indo-Guyanese. I just realized something. Let me see if Dr. Hines is where I think he might be. Coast to coast milk produced by these very Indo-Guyanese
And he took it, it was taken to the Litco plant and processed into a value-added product. And so they got more money for the produce. They got more reliable market for the produce because they didn't have to keep it on hand and hope to sell it by a 1 pint and a 2 pint and a gallon and so. Right? Instead, what they were able to do is send it in bulk to the pasteurization plant, where they were paid, and the milk was preserved and sold better than any evaporated milk. You wanted evaporated milk? I don't know what the process is, but as far as I know, just as it says. I load sugar to it because that is what I see, a whole lot of sugar in milk. And you process it so that most of the quote-unquote water evaporates and the milk is thickened. I could make the right thing. We had a thing named Penus. How many of you remember Penus? Born band potatoes. Nutritionally, potato is one of the, I don't know, what is the nutritional value of potatoes except a whole lot of starch? Huh? What is the nutritional value of potatoes? They say you got minerals, vitamins, and fiber. Right? Vitamin C, potassium, iron, vitamin B6, protein, fiber. Right? Compare that to the nutritional value of arrows. Vitamin C, iron, and also other nutrients like fiber, carbohydrates, and protein. So that quick look there suggests to me that arrows have a wider nutritional content than potatoes. And so if potatoes were banned, I know what the replacement was. Arrows and yam. Don't forget yams. I tell you, if I'm going to eat a curry, I prefer yams in my curry or arrows in my curry. Right? That's what I prefer. Yams or arrows. Yams have potassium, carbohydrate, dietary fibers, proteins, vitamin C. Yeah. And so we're complaining about banning potato when we had readily available alternatives here, like arrows and yams, which we know were coming fresh from our farms. And again, they were providing employment for our people. They were giving us a bigger chunk of the food consumption market. And we were eating fresh and healthy. What could be so wrong with such a policy? Except that people just are bent on making boredom the devil's incarnate. What could be so wrong? Even if, as you claim, these things were banned, look at the alternatives. In present-day Guyana, if you look at our food import bill, you would know that it is a sin, because I don't see it as anything else. I see it as a sin, the food import bill of Guyana, when you consider the fact that we were once considered the breadbasket of the Caribbean, or the possible breadbasket of the Caribbean.
I wonder what the food import bill is. Because the reality is, according to this quick search, between January to June 2022, Guyanese's food import bill totaled US $101.7 million. This did not include beverage and tobacco, which accounted for another $30.3 million US dollars. During the same period in 2023, the country's total food importation bill rose to $122.2 million, while beverage and tobacco imports reached US $30.9 million. Are you recognizing what is happening here? In this period when nothing is banned, our reliance on imported food is increasing. In 2022, it was just about $101 million. And by 2023, a year later, it went to $122 million. An approximate $20 million US dollars increase in our food import bill over a 1 year period. I can imagine what it is now. I can imagine what it is now. And let us ask the question, what is the nutritional value of the foods that we are importing compared to foods that can be grown right here and consumed? What is the nutritional value? For the most part, food that is imported into this country are GMO, genetically modified. Like them big fat tough skin tomatoes that come from Brazil, I think. Check them. Compared to our nice juicy soft skinned tomatoes here in Ghana, fresh from the farm, providing employment and a source of income for our farmers and their families, compared to those which are imported from Brazil and elsewhere, providing a source of income and employment, yes, for one person or two persons, that is the middleman who brings it and the person who sells it. Because they don't provide employment for farm hands, and they don't provide employment for reapers and sowers and maintenance people and so on. How patriotic are we? How patriotic are we when we choose to spend our money in the development of farmers from a foreign land than our own local farmers? How patriotic are we? How do we help our country to grow like that? Lots and lots of farmlands across this country, inaccessible, number one. Number two, poorly irrigated. And so cannot be used to their fullest potential. And our food import bill keeps going to the sky. And what are we importing? Genetically modified food. Foods which will eventually have serious implications for our health. But Borden's policy was the worst. Borden's policy was the worst. Because we wanted pickled mackerel, sardines, evaporated milk. When we had the readily available, fresh, nutritious alternatives right here. No potato stew, as far as I know, could compare with a yam or an edo. Give me my salted banga or even smoked banga. I really don't eat smoked fish because my own learning tells me that it's not healthy. The amount of carbon monoxide that is captured in that food. So give me my fresh banga. Or trout, or gray snapper, or red snapper. Gale barker, perhaps. I don't eat unscaled fish, but I love a shark. What need do I have for sardines? And since I haven't seen Dr. Heinz's yet, let's continue to talk about foods and our food consumption and our food import bill. Do you know that because of the wickedness of this government, racism of this government, the lives of Guyanese are put at serious risks with the consumption of rice? Do you know that? Just the other day, a large shipment of rice was returned from one of the international destinations. Because of the amount of pesticides used on it. Good. Because of the amount of pesticides used in the rice, a large quantity of Guyana's rice was returned from one of those foreign destinations. Marcel is saying European Union, perhaps. I'll talk about wheat flour and bread just now, Jesse James. Right? The European, let me say the foreign buyer, because I'm not sure who it is. I see Marcel saying it might be the European Union. I can't remember who it was. Could have returned the rice to Guyana because they had mechanisms to test it and realize that the pesticide content was so heavy that it was not fit for human consumption. But imagine right here in Guyana, we consume the same rice. We consume the same rice. What are the long-term impact or effects of consuming rice that is adulterated with pesticides? Do a little bio now. Right? Your kidneys and your liver are responsible for what's the word I want to use? They process, but they're responsible for purifying. They're responsible for, there's that word I'm looking for. Filtering. Yeah, let me say filtering. Filtering that which your body consumes.
And so when you're consuming all of these pesticides and foreign things in your body, those organs need to work harder and they get destroyed in the process. And so many of our citizens, if it has not started happening already, and I want to believe it has started happening, toxins, the removal of toxins, yes. Many of our citizens are now suffering from and will suffer from kidney failure. And we have to be patients of dialysis. Are you seeing a trend any part in this country where a lot of people are suffering from kidney failure? If it weren't a problem, why then did the government have to budget? Under the Granger government, they established free dialysis centers, especially in Borbis. So I would want to believe a large percentage of that problem is found in Borbis. And Borbis is the land of what? Rice. Borbis produces a lot of Guyanese rice. So that problem affects them not only by consumption, but also by the employment practices of having to shy fertilize and spray pesticides and so on. And so the body gets affected. And a lot of our people are ending up on dialysis. I was saying that the problem is definitely a pronounced one because under the Granger government, they made dialysis free at certain centers across the country, definitely in Borbis. When the PPP came to office, they shut them down. They say, we're going to change the structure. We're giving you all what? I can't remember, $300,000 a year for dialysis or something like that. I can't remember the amount. But the PPP recognized also that kidney failures and so on are a problem in this society. And so they had to provide some assistance to patients of dialysis. Because of the heavy pesticides use. Why are they using so much pesticides in the rice industry? I'll explain it to you. They got a thing named paddy bug. Paddy bug does give in rice. If you can't control paddy bug, your rice production is not profitable, going to be destroyed. So they have certain inputs, certain fertilizer mix that you have to use to nourish the soil, to nourish the plant, and to keep out the pest. Apparently, Guyana has not mastered that mix yet. They don't have the technology to control the paddy bug and to nourish the soil. Or the people who are dominating rice apparently don't have it. Because my understanding is that there's a man named Buford Adams in this country, African Guyanese man, who got into the fertilizer producing business, has the formula for the right mix. He credits himself, I have to say he credits himself because I don't know, we're bringing about a turnaround in the rice industry in the early years of the PPP office when Ghana suddenly started getting more than 20 bags of paddy per acre or something. Whatever, I don't know the numbers. I ain't into the rice thing. But from my understanding, Buford Adams' mix was doing well enough. But because of racism and ethnic oppression, the PPP and the PPP friends decided that, hey, who is this black man to come and dominate the rice industry because his fertilizer is good? Let's kick him to the curb. And so Buford Adams got kicked to the curb. His fertilizer mix got kicked to the curb because none of them could reproduce it. And the rice industry is suffering. But these people come and tell you born and ban this and born and ban that. They are not going to tell you that the PPP is creating tremendous hardships to people in the rice industry because they are not allowing free market to run it. they wouldn't tell you, or they don't know, that an Indian, I think it's a Canadian American national, or some Indian operating out of Canada or the US, came to this country, engaged in discussions with Zulfikar, or Mustafa, or whatever his name, agriculture minister, among other big players in the PPP government, about investing in fertilizer for the rice industry. Had an agreement with them. And when they found out that he was in partnership with Buford Adams, they kicked him to the curb too. And told him if ever he wants to do business with the PPP government of Guyana, forget that somebody named Buford Adams exists. But these people come here every day to tell you crap about Bornum. Ancient history, they don't tell you these things. They don't tell you these things. And so let's get to, I'm taking my guidance this morning. To Jesse James, I think it is Jesse James, say, why you don't, you see, they're so small-minded. I said, I think $300,000, I'm not sure what the amount is. Jesse James is asking me, why you didn't go above $300,000? It's $600,000. Great. It's $600,000. But I will tell you that it is woefully inadequate for any patient who has to get dialysis. And I can tell you because not so long ago, somebody reached out to me to assist in raising funds for a patient of dialysis, despite the fact he was getting $600,000. Because the amount is woefully inadequate. Do I prefer $600,000 or do I prefer free access? Free access immediately frees me up from that psychological strain. I got to study where it's coming from. I know that these are my dates when I turn up to get the, what is it, drained? I will say drained. Dialysis, what do they do to you? I don't even know. Right? So if you're $600, yes, it just really and truly and cut it. The coalition government, without access to our money at that time, had made dialysis free for persons who needed it. You know how much psychological strain and stress they remove from people? Do you know psychological stress and strain causes your health to deteriorate rapidly? So they already got this physical stress and strain because of the kidney failures and so on. And then you're adding psychological pressures to them. You're killing them early. So Jesse James asked me to talk about flour. Why you didn't talk about flour and bread? Let me make this clear to you. Let me make this clear to you. Again, the nutritional value of wheat and flour is nil. Zip, almost zero. One set of sugar, starch, carbohydrates in your system. You could go Google it yourself. What's the nutritional value of wheat flour? I think I know damn value except belly full. Even belly full ain't good enough. You have to add so many other things to that thing to make it make sense. That's a starters. But let's talk about wheat flour. First and foremost, these folks argue that Bornum banned flour to punish Indo-Guyanese. But if you check the history of this country and flour consumption, you would realize that Afro-Guyanese on a daily basis consume more wheat and flour than Indo-Guyanese. I challenge y'all to tell me differently. The majority of Indo-Guyanese were using wheat and flour for domestic purposes. Afro-Guyanese were using wheat and flour for commercial purposes. They had bakeries. And still do. It's not so long ago Indo-Guyanese started investing in bakery, as far as I know. It's the one area that Afro-Guyanese
to some extent dominated for a brief period of time in this country. I say brief because I don't think they dominate now. So when flour was banned, it had a more dire economic impact on Afro-Guyanese businesses than it had on Indo-Guyanese. What were they affected by? I can't make a roti, I can't make a dal puri. But you had whole bakeries that were providing employment for people that for the greater part had to close the doors. And so since Black families were reliant on bakeries for employment and provision of meals, Black man used to eat bread for breakfast, Black man used to eat bread for dinner, possibly Black man used to eat bread for lunch, tea, breakfast, and dinners be like say. And so if this flour was banned, yes, it affected every single person in the country, but I would argue that it affected on a greater economic scale African Guyanese. But let's ask the question. Deal with the elephant in the room, as they say. Was flour really banned in? Or we couldn't afford to buy flour? When you bring home the little chicken food money and you put it on the table and you say, well, yeah, this is what we get. I'm not going to eat chicken this week. Because if I would buy chicken, I would come buy rice. And if I would buy chicken, I would come buy sugar. And rice and sugar are the basics in any home for feeding people. Once you get a little rice, you could make a meal. But if you get chicken without rice, you're bad. So when your daddy bring home the little bit money and you say, well, yeah, this is what I will get. I will come buy chicken for this week. Did he ban chicken? Or did he react to his financial constraints? A lot of you who come here and talk about banning flour don't even know the arrangements under which Ghana was getting flour. They got a program that was called PL 480. PL 480. We're going to credit you flour, Ghana. We're going to supply you with all the wheat. Excuse me. You're going to mill it. You're going to sell it to your people. And then you're going to pay us for the wheat. It's so Guyana used to get flour. And when Barnum's make bad with his handlers in North America, because Barnum had handlers too. Don't let anybody fool you and tell you Barnum hadn't handlers. But he was stronger in dealing with his handlers. And because of his strength of dealing with his handlers, they decided they're gonna put you in his place. We gotta put you in your place by your smell and your sweat. And see what you're gonna do. You will find your cash money to pay us for our wheat. You will pay us for our wheat cash. And it's the only way you can get it. Barnum said, well, buy, things are hard. We ain't got the kind of money to pay for no wheat. So you want to keep your wheat. Indira Gandhi, Indian Prime Minister at the time, stepped in and said, oh, Uncle Sam, I going to pay for the wheat for them. They're going to pay me back. Let I pay for the wheat. Me and them going to make an arrangement. We going to pay for the wheat and you going to give them the wheat. And they're going to pay me. And Uncle Sam said, no. It ain't working, so. We want you pay for it. This man is smelling his sweat. Tell yourself you must see them Belanje, so let he pay for it. The only way you get in the wheat is if you pay for it. And being the state of everything in the country at the time, we had access to that kind of resources. And so Barnum said, well, hey, We gonna do without the wheat, man. We got alternatives. Many argue that he had learned the technology for making rice flour from India. And so he said, let us switch to indigenous flours, man. Let me make rice flour. And he put his local scientists to work on producing rice flour. But what did the Indian leaders do? They taboo it. They cause out Barnum and say ban flour to punish Indo-Guyanese. I hope I've just made a case that African Guyanese had worse punishment because flour wasn't available to the bakeries. And so he didn't get support with rice flour. He didn't get support with all of the alternatives that he was providing because the PPP was politicking. They had a scorch in the earth. Rice flour was being used in India for all kinds of things. But here in Ghana, they say rice flour is taboo. It can't use. They give berry, you give rice bark, all kinds of things. Fast forward to 2024. Fast forward to 2024 from the 70s or the 80s. 60 years ago, perhaps. I hope my math's wild enough, I'm just guessing. Barbados, I think, is producing bread out of rice flour, out of cassava flour, and it is quite expensive. Try buying a box of Rice Krispies in the US. It is quite expensive. Try buying a pound of rice flour in the US. It is quite expensive. And so again, I ask the question, was it a bad vision for Ghana to become self-sufficient, to feed itself, even in the production of rice flour? Nowadays, I know there's a co-op in this country that is producing cassava flour, arrow flour, sweet potato flour, breadfruit flour, and they are all integrated into the making of breads and cakes. And the nutritional value of those breads and cakes are way above breads and cakes that are made with wheaten flour. So upgrade your education. Upgrade your education. Accept that, hey, Barnum was a man ahead of his time. The man had the vision incomparable to the likes of Jagan. While they're fighting for import low-class fish from the US sardine, Barnum said, hey, we local bango powerful, why let's use it. But they're cussing up to now. They're cussing now. And come telling we, talk about that. Well, I talk about it. What's your response? Was Barnum all bad? Was he more bad than good? Were his policies that detrimental to this country? Or his political opponents were able to brainwash a large section of this society to the extent that even 30, 40, 50, 60 years after, they cannot come to the realization that perhaps a lot of those policies were good for the growth and development of this country. It's 60 minutes past 8 o'clock hour. The lines are open. 622-5933 is the number to call. 622-5933 is the number to call. And let me take some time out to wish a special lady happy birthday. Hi, y'all. How you do? You know yourself. Y'all know the lady on the screen? Y'all don't know her? All right. Look at her. I understand she turned 16 today. Isn't that so? Happy birthday, Jennifer. Birthday wishes are coming to you from, you know, your dear Elian and your mommy and your relatives and friends and your extended family and everybody. They say to wish you a happy birthday. And may you live to see many, many more satisfying years of good health and good living. I endorse those wishes and I wish you all the best for today and forevermore. Have a beautiful birthday, Jenny. Right? Well, I went to my visit the last time, well, the first time or that time when I was over in the US. Jennifer and her sister, they were quite hospitable. I'm talking to myself all the time. I put up no picture. It's somewhere you're self-opinionated. What is it? You're a narcissist. You only think about yourself. There's Jennifer. Right? So join me in wishing Jennifer a happy birthday, and may she live to see many, many more, and have a wonderful day. Call it live.
Morning to that.
Good morning to you, sir.
What a coincidence. What a coincidence. Because this morning I wanted to address this thing about GMO foods, right? After listening to the convo, which is run by Penuel Locho out of South Africa, he was speaking. I sent you a short. I would love for you to play. He was speaking to Rotondo Martinieri, a Zimbabwean. He is very, very powerful in fighting wars against the West. Right? And he is one of the men who single-handedly fought the sanctions and fought to get rid of the sanctions against Zimbabwe. Now he's fighting the war against GMOs in Zimbabwe. He's even being sued by big multinational companies. And this man, hear what? I am ready to go broke, but to make sure that my people live a healthy life and the cancer rate in Zimbabwe comes down. When we think about everything that we're importing, right? These multinationals is all about profit, and they don't care what they're going to think about yield and giving us GMO food. We got big fancy people, the thing name in up in Borgis River, the planting, what's this thing named soy, right? Do you know how, and I'm sure that's GMO, do you know how the farmers nearby will be affected by that? Their crops will be affected, and all of those chemicals and stuff, cancer-giving stuff that is being placed in these things could be transferred just by blowing things over, just like how we get pollination. Our people are in a bad state. We're eating the fancy meat that's coming from out here. The things only when I come home, then I know beef is beef and chicken is chicken, shrimp is shrimping. And I'm trying my best to come off of those things. But we want all of these important things. We're so happy to get these important things that is plugged with our whole heap of crap that is killing us. I've lived in Bahamas for 14 years. Bahamas imports produce nothing when it comes to food. Nothing. They import everything. And when you check in the Caribbean, Bahamas has one of the highest cancer rates. Why? It's because of diet. It's because of what they're eating. Our people are in a bad state. We got to decolonialize ourselves with what we eat. We got to get rid of that in what we eat. So, yes, I wanted to hit about GMO this morning because that thing is very, very serious, and we just want to bring in seeds. Bill and Melinda Gates, what they're doing in Africa, trying to buy out all the seeds and stockpile it. I want to introduce GMO, heavy there, Kenya running with it, the Kenyan president in problems. A lot of the Africans are saying no. In Russia, it's you've been prosecuted and sent to jail if you only talk about GMO because it's not good for the nation. and we're heading down that road, our farmers gonna hug it up because they want a profit big, but not realizing you're killing a nation, and we ain't got no much people in our nation. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your call. So let's have this food conversation. They got these what do you call them? Millennium goals and so on and so forth. Call it like.
Yes, good morning to you and all my black brothers and sisters in Guyana. Happy Wednesday. I miss Dr. Hines. My God, my God. Let me start off by saying we're going to get there. And I'm going to rally around your words and talk about it every day. If you buzz me in, we Americans say, hey, like, buzz me in. I'll leave my keys upstairs.
All over the line. Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Juan Francis, I don't care what you have to say. Once you don't come on course. Goodbye. Go ahead, Chief Flash.
What I want to see the back of the PPP that go. Those are powerful words. You may not realize it. But trust God, you understand those words. That is what I need to see. The back of the PPP that must go. Because our people punching the wealth of our country is not spreading to each and every one of Guyanese in the country. Let me say this here too. You see our Prime Minister, when it's ready for him, water in debt, if he drink for cola. The Prime Minister allowed the government and his government to sweep the teeth of them out and our children, our education, and then when St. Vincent began a problem, he took a picture with two man and ready for sending aid to take care of St. Vincent children and teachers and government workers. That's what he part played. But then Jack Diego sent blank check later on and let them enjoy black people money. I listened to Mr. David program last night. A powerful program. He mentioned Martin Luther King. That is good. But he mentioned God. Yes, he was speaking out of the spirit, the living spirit. But he asked the question. He said, God, tell us, what is happening to us? God already gave us power to stop what's happening to us. We all know and see what's happening to us in Guyana. Black people, we know already. We got to use God's power. Our ancestors did it. Puffy did not bust that strain by natural strength. God, we have to step in and give that extra power to bust that chain and set our parents free, our ancestors free. What are we asking for? What are we waiting for? Stop asking God. God, if I have to be the voice for my people, God don't want any more voice of people. Our people dying, our children, our education has been tampered with every gang Guyana. What we need to answer, what we need to ask God for, go in King James, the book of King James Bible, and you see what something actual. God did not say no. See what God did to Pharaoh to let people there go. And if God didn't want trust God, if was speaking this morning and reminding you about the word of God, he would have removed that from our brains, from our spirits. God said, thou shalt not kill. But Jesus came and said, I come not to them fulfill what Jesus mean by that. Whatever God said, my father said, what Moses said, what Abraham said, I will not put nothing against that, but I will fulfill. What was it fulfill? Peter, put on the sword. You live by the sword, you perish by the sword. We all know the meaning of perish. It's time for black people to come together. It's time for y'all to come together and start running and running and running. We could only conquer the wicked holy people and governments by come together with love, unity, and support, and ask God for that extra strength. For God, that chain what Jack you. One man chaining each black people. One man with the help of police, staff police, and staff soldier. We have power, and the power we have to use our power. We're not using our power. Sit back and remember. I say it again. God give black people more power in this world and any other ways. I don't care who. Manifest God. That extra power. The man, as history, is the American force to farm, bring surgery in America. Black, not China, white, not only black. The current we use in the life, black. They stop like them. Red, green, and gold. Black. Take the power what God gets with black people. Are you have the power tomorrow to come together and stop them calling? Look around what them calling do. Let me say this thing before we go. Are you still there?
Yes.
When visitors play every day for anti-God, that's the last of the wrap up. Listen to that video clearly. I don't like it. Because we always said anti-God will be played. Anti-God said from 1965 to vote for the cup up to 2020, but you don't like the things and what they're doing. Nothing is different than what you people are doing to black people and children. What's it coming to my eyes? So they try back man and get to come and tell God you don't like the thing with them. I should never say that. They told it on my phone, double P, or see my vote. Since I should not want to go, should have to go encourage change. But you make sure you put them all in power to control their money and then mark a place video they are not. It's an insult for black man. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for calling. So y'all don't get emotional. Stay rational. Don't get emotional. Stay rational. The lines remain on 6225933 is the number to call you. Tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Kiraki Amsterdam. You know, this morning was my response morning. Hey, let's put up my Zelle, say I'm gonna put some money in the Zelle account. Yes, bills got to pay, you know. I don't think this thing only for water. Especially Harold James. Harold James, you have to throw something in the kitty this morning, boy. You're getting a lot of answers to your questions. I wonder if Harold James is Miranda Brown in a different name. Call it live.
Yeah, good morning and good day. Stop it, you know. When you listen to how these people keep berating what Lyndon Forbes, Samson Forbes, executive president, this country, even extending to the Caribbean and further, probably the world also, you know that he did a lot of things because with the things that he removed, when you are talking just now about potato, I don't really buy it that much. But when you buy potato, it got to taste like yam. And it ain't got to me, I prefer Edo, but I never did yam curry, but I prefer Edo curry to potato. Now when Burnham did bad things as they were taught, he made certain that Guyana became a country producing so many things. We had Gaikan, jams and jelly. I ate cereals. I ate Family Delight cereal. That was something tasting better than the big hair Kellogg's and Sunshine cornflakes that we now buy. Then we had this they had milk powder. along with the liquor milk. And so many things came out from the banning. As you rightly said, we used to use strictly cut fish. We were able to start using our local fishes and getting saltfish. As a child growing up, I used to eat more cut saltfish coming all the way from Northwest. And I would run to more cut saltfish because I grew up with that. Now with this thing with wheat and so, I quite certain if we try we got to plant wheat in this country, and we might get a better yield of wheat. Because at one time, I know of people planting in Denham still back down. This thing aniseed and I think barley was being planted in Denham still back down. Egg back is a stone throw from me. In the back dam of Hague, people were planting onions and all them things where you see people clamoring for. So things that were being banned brought cottage industry into Guyana. Look, when fruits were being banned, then everybody know that five finger and papa and all them things what would go to glut became something that was needed to prepare fruits for Christmas. And when you finish boiling your fruits, the liquid that comes out from the fruits does make a mean soy sauce. Because when I finish boiling my fruits, I would get a lovely soy sauce. And sometimes I could convert it into cashew to make the pepper pot. So from those spin-offs and things that Barnum did, we were at a better rate. Now Guyana is importing clay bricks. Before Barnum did the clay brick factory, I think I can't remember his now. Either Bellbag or we didn't used to hear about clay bricks. We know about Dutch bricks. Now clay bricks is being imported into this country, and them same people who bought the clay brick, buying the clay brick now and building the place with it. All of those were things that Barnum developed. But because Barnum developed it, when the PPP came into power in 1992, they destroyed every iota that Barnum put into this place. Look at our young people. When we had national service used to account for a lot of young people who are now running and smoking weed and selling weed. Little children selling weed, smoking it. In Barnum time, they ain't have time for that. Because since you play, you don't want to go to school, you roll you by national service. And by the time we spend 18 months at any national service center, you coming out as a different species, coming out as somebody respected, well-rounded, educated better. You get scholastic education, and you had a theoretical education that you could have gone into the world of work. And then you had the military training that you would have known how to toss the flag on the ground. You would have known that when you hear the national anthem, the first bar of the national anthem and any national service center, you can't walk. You didn't know you got to stand up and pay reverence to your anthem, reverence to your pledge, because those were your symbols of nationhood. Look.
Hello, hi, good morning. How y'all do? Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is 7 hours 26 on the 24th day of October in the year 2024. I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. How you been? How are you doing? How was your yesterday? How was your last night? How you sleep? I'm excited about you wake up on this morning. How are you feeling? What were you able to achieve yesterday? Did you achieve any of those SMART goals that you set? I hope so. And I wish you renewed strength today, that you will continue along the path of success, that you'll continue to achieve, you'll continue to break down those walls, remove those obstacles that they keep putting in your way. You have to be determined that brick by brick by brick, you're going to come out of the rut that they have you in. You're going to emancipate yourself. You're going to be liberated. You're going to have your main hustle, even if it is you're working with the private sector or you're working with the public sector, but you're going to get your side hustle. And you're going to see your side hustle as a source of growth, as a source of freedom. You're going to know that, hey, you don't have to stick the nonsense that they're dishing out to you because you have an alternative. Start investing in yourselves. It's Thursday. Winston Jordan, former Minister of Finance, is going to be on the program, definitely. I'll call him up in a few. Yeah, I know why this good. But let me talk a little bit about what's happening, what's unfolding before your eyes. And I'm talking about the conundrum that is the Guyana Police Force. The feces, oh gosh, why are you using such a big word? The shit smelling. It hit the fan. The Guyana Police Force brought out its best to search a home of one of its own. I don't know how many of you are following the news, but it has been in the news since last evening or yesterday afternoon. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. A large number of police ranks surrounded the living quarters of senior police officer Butas. And some would say there was a standoff. As I'm understanding it, they went to search his home. No, most senior policemen have quarters in the Guyana Police Force compound, in Ivlery compound, around the officers' mess area. Like a lot of senior military officers have dwellings in the Guyana Defense Force compound, Kampangano. Right? It's part of the package. And so they got a warrant to search Butas' quarters, or home, whichever one you want to call it. And Butas was adamant, according to the news, only one of y'all could come in here and search. There's only one of y'all named up on the warrant. No one would believe that members of the Guyana Police Force, more particularly the senior officer or officers of SOCU, would understand that this is a trained policeman who is also a lawyer, who is a senior police, who knows the system, who understands how it is supposed to work. And so they will dot their I's and cross their T's. I don't know who this is, but let me see if I can help this person out. Good morning, how may I help you? Yeah, sorry about that. Somebody wanted to comment on the Butas matter, but you know what's going on. Like I want to catch a heart attack in here. Good. Yes. So I'm saying that, you know, what played out there last night is a good example of how people take things for granted. They are so accustomed to doing it the wrong way that when it comes to a situation where they have to do it the right way, they can't even muster the strength, the knowledge to do it the right way. Because one would believe that the senior officers at SOCO and the Guyana Police Force in general would know that Butas is a man in the system. Butas is a lawyer. Butas is a senior policeman. Butas understands and knows how the system is supposed to function. And so if you are going to make a move on Butas, as they did last evening, you have to dot the I's and cross the T's. How then can you turn up with a search warrant with one person's name on it? And then apparently want a whole battalion to go into the man's dwellings. He stood his ground. So many will say that there was a standoff. He said, well, yeah, I could come in, but it's one man only. Only the person's name on the warrant. Whoever name is on the warrant, only they could come in here. They left and they went away, according to the news. They didn't brutalize him. They didn't threaten him with physical harm. But had it been an ordinary citizen, I guarantee they would have broke down the door. Because who dare you to challenge a warrant that the police has that has one name on it and they want to bring in a dozen? I want people to pay attention to these developments because they're teachable and learning moments from them. If it's one man's name on the warrant, is one man permitted to enter a place to effect the search? It's almost surrounded with SWAT and so on. Special weapons and tactics. Special weapons and tactics, policemen are usually brought out in the most extreme cases where they expect serious pushback or retaliation, the use of force against the ranks, whoever is going to execute a particular operation. Are the seniors in the Guyana Police Force, SOCO in particular, saying that Butas is such a dangerous policeman, such a rogue policeman, that they expected him to reach them with force of gunfire, perhaps? Or is it a clear use of the Guyana police using excessive force as they're accustomed to? Is it a clear case of intimidation? Is it an implicit threat on his life and his family's life? A lot of people are saying, sing, Butas, sing. And there are many of us who are saying Butas is not going to sing for several reasons. Among them, the fact that once he starts to sing, he might just face the fate of many others who attempted to sing and be executed with some frivolous excuse why he was executed, or some unknown reason for his death. But let me give you all a master stroke that I recognize in all of this. And I'm following the news. I'm commenting based on a lot of what is in the news, right? Butas says he is not going to remove himself. He's going to stay. He's going to continue living in the police quarters for as long as it is legally possible. That's a master stroke. If you live in the police compound as a senior policeman, you are their responsibility. It will be highly unlikely that a civilian can get off of the road to come and harm you in the midst of all of the police and the security measures that are supposed to be engaged at that compound, that facility. So if any harm comes to Butas, it has to be, most likely would be somebody from within the confines of the Guyana Police Force Ivile relocation. And so that's a master stroke. I know they might want to mash me, But I stay right among them. Let them mash me among them. And then let the world be the judge. That's a master stroke. Kudos. But what about all of the allegations, which again Bhutto says, these allegations are unfounded. They are simple acts of victimization and intimidation and falsification of information and so on. The Guyana police is known for that, isn't it? How many persons have accused the police of infringing on their constitutional rights? How many persons have accused the police of planting evidence? How many persons have accused the police of twisting their statements, coercing them into signing statements that they never issued? And these are the same allegations coming from a senior Ghana police force member. We usually say the bed you make is the bed you're going to lie on. Is it fair to say that this is a person who sat at the helm of the Ghana police force and was allowing all of these abuses to affect the lives of the common citizens of this country? But now the chickens have come home to roost. And just leave it there. Should we just leave it there? Or should we ask the question, if they can do this to one of their own, what awaits the fate of ordinary citizens? There are allegations that are being made. For example, they say the quartermaster the office in charge of the quartermaster stores signature appears on a lot of the documents, let me call them delivery notes for goods that was supposed to be delivered to the quartermaster stores. Despite the fact that he had issued earlier statements to say he doesn't know about these things, they weren't delivered. But in many times when he was called to the office of this senior policeman and instructed to sign for these things as delivered, and then to sign as issuing them out to varying departments of the Ghana police force. You see, when a war is taking place, people choose sides. And when I read the reports of a particular journalist or reporter, I recognize that that person has chosen a side from very long time ago, because there are certain allegations which are leveled against that individual too, as being complicit in all of the lawlessness that takes place, corruption and so on at the Ghana police force. And I'm not dealing with that. I'm saying when you look at some of the reports, you recognize that even journalists, reporters, whatever you want to call them, have taken their sides. And so while this officer in charge of the quartermaster store said, listen, I was bullied, I was intimidated to sign these things in and sign them out, he's implicated as being unable to give account for these things, which it is alleged Butas are dealings with. But I want that particular officer, and I want all other senior officers and other policemen and even members of the Guyana's Defense Force and Joint Services rank, fire service and so on, to recognize one thing. It cannot be enough. It would never be enough for you to simply say you were coerced, you were instructed to, you were bullied by your senior officer to do that which is wrong. At the end of the day, your signature is there, you will be held accountable. And that is why I've always said, a lot of these functionaries do not understand the powers they have, the authority they have, and how they're protected by the Constitution. Many of them are lazy, intellectually perhaps. Many of them are spineless because they're not prepared to stand up and defend what is right, even if it involves them. And so they will find themselves going down this kind of rabbit hole when the shit hits the fan. Do I have any empathy for them? No. Because anybody who stays quiet in the midst of injustice is a part of that problem. They're contributing to it. They are enablers. Okay, the man who instructed you to sign these things and so on, despite the fact that you know corruption was afoot allegedly, is top tier of the organization. Well, become a whistleblower. Become a whistleblower. Drop a hint there, drop a hint there. Seek out somebody who has ethics and morals and who will stand up for what is right and whisper in their ear. But don't go signing things as receiving what you didn't receive and signing things as issuing what wasn't there to be issued and then come and cry foul. No, sir. Stand your ground and cry foul. I want every other policeman to look at this whole circus, this whole conundrum, this whole situation, and learn from it. That's my encouragement. I have friends or friends who have been in that quartermaster store. Many of you might have heard me talk about the corruption that is taking place in the Guyana police force on several occasions. And I was talking from a position of knowledge. As they say, I had my receipts. And I'm grateful that those persons who were in some way, shape, or form associated with me at some point in time took guidance and used wisdom and got themselves out of that particular part of the Guyana police force. Make the heights. Some left the work. Some gone to other divisions, and so on and so forth. Because they were insistent, we're not going to be caught in this web of corruption. We ain't going to do it. So we're transferred, you know. But at the end of the day, I guess they're standing on the wayside now and laughing at what is unfolding. The news tells us that Karim Bash allegedly contributed 25% of a $20 million property purchase, which is $5 million, to Brutus. If Brutus is being investigated, therefore, one would believe that to make Karim Bash the head of the investigating team first and foremost is to create a conflict of interest because he has some financial relationship to Brutus, number one. Number two, where did he get $5 million from to contribute to this property purchase? The news tells us that Hickins issued a statement saying that he collected, I think, $8 million as gifts and handed it over to Brutus when he got married. And if Brutus is being investigated for this accumulation of wealth, then Hickins too should be investigated. And so in short, what you need over the Guyana police force is what Granger once called the mother of all inquiries, the mother of all investigations. The Guyana police force must be thoroughly investigated because there are also political players involved. And so what you want is an independent, internationally acclaimed, respected group of people to investigate the Guyana police force for all of the wrongdoings. That is what we need to push for and stop saying sing Buddha sing. Because even if Buddha sings, with the current modus operandi of this government, nothing is likely to change. Dayton Fraser says, Mr. Sam, you're acting as if you don't know what is happening. Say no and you had a job. I'd rather have my integrity without a job. I'd rather have my peace of mind knowing that at no point in time they could bungle me for being in corruption in an organization in which I work than to have a job. And so the thing that tells us that we must condone wrongdoing because we need a job and we got to eat the food and we got bills to pay and so on is definitely miseducation or intellectual laziness. Because if you're engaging in wrongdoings to keep the job, you have to keep in mind that those very wrongdoings can cost you the job. It is 12 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour. Like I said, it's Thursday. Mr. Jordan comes on Thursday to talk about the economy. And so I'm not going to stand anywhere close, anywhere in between Mr. Jordan and this morning's discussion. I've had my say. I will continue to have my say as time permits. But I hope I've given you some things to think about.
Are you planning your next visit to Oil Ridge, Guyana, South America? Well, let's accommodate you at Varon's Cheerful Country Manor. With free secured on-premises parking, our beautiful vacation air-conditioned home offers 3 beds, 2 bathrooms, a spacious kitchen, and all modern amenities. Located at Tushen, on the eastern bank of the mighty Essequibo and the western coast of the Marara, Varon's Cheerful Country Manor is just a stone throw from the ocean. Make that reservation now on Airbnb and VRBO. For contact, call us on 516-770-3053 or 592-685-3521. Make Varon's Cheerful Country Manor your home away from home.
Friday, November.
Remember, those of you who are here locally, you can book your stay at Veron's. You can call 683-3110. But the minimum stay is 3 days and 3 nights, or 3 days and 2 nights. It must involve 3 something, right? So you have to stay for a minimum of 3 days or nights at Veron's if you're going to book locally. And the number to call for that is 683-3110. Mr. Jordan, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. I'm not my usual self. I've been under the weather for most of the week. I was feeling quite ill, and I woke up this morning feeling a little better. But I was betwixt and between as to whether to do the program. But ultimately, I said, let me try and see how long I will survive. I'm not sure what is going wrong, if anything at all, but I had some not too pleasant episodes for most of the week, so to speak. I'm hoping it's coming to an end. But I'm on, and so with that, I am going to thank the Lord as usual for Thankful Thursday, and thanks for being alive as usual. Having said that, I want to express my condolences to the families and friends of 2 persons. I don't know if you know one of them, Debbie Collins. Debbie Collins, I know she was a regular on Sherrod's program and David Hines' program and Paul Slow's program. I don't know if she was a regular on Cam's morning.
I would want to assume that she was.
She was very well known, very pleasant individual. I knew her very well, worked with her, and so on. She's gone to the great beyond. Condolences. And also I learned today that a former acting governor of the central bank, Dali Singh, who I knew very well and who I worked with, passed also. So she's also gone to the great beyond. May their souls rest in peace and rise in glory. Yes, one day we all have to go there, so to speak. But while we're here, let us make the best of living. I quite, even during my illness, I quite enjoyed your programs on Tuesday, I think, that dealt with education. And yesterday's program that dealt a lot with Bornham's contribution in the many areas unparalleled in the annals of the history of Guyana. And I must admit that I was really happy to read last week Friday when it was reported that students of the Guyana School of Agriculture introduced a bread making project aimed at reducing the import of wheat flour. They created bread using rice, cassava, and sweet potato. Well, didn't this sound familiar to you? Because I'm sure you would have read. Didn't this sound like something that Bornham, in his FCH, Feed, Clothe, and House the Nation by 1976? The FCH, which was the 1972 to 1976 Second Development Plan, in which Bornham was trying for us to eat what we produce and produce what we eat. In which Bornham was trying to wean us off of all the foods, culture, and everything else that the colonized people, had become accustomed to. Imagine growing up and you seeing barrels of pigtail coming from abroad in these barrels that look like casks. CSK, by the way. Barrels of pigtail and salted meat and imported salted fish, codfish, and so forth, and white potatoes, and of course, flour, and so on, coming in. And there was very little produced locally. And in fact, even produce that were produced locally was scoffed at. You know, you were looked up to if you had all the imported stuff, especially at Christmas time. Ice apple. Note the word, wasn't apple, was ice apple. Grapes, dates, and all these things that used to be imported, particularly during Christmas time. Nuts being imported, all kinds of stuff being imported. New Zealand anchor butter. Oh, the list can go on and on and on and on and on. And this is where Bornham asks us to produce what we eat and eat what we produce. But of course, with any transformation, there will be resistance. In some cases, violent resistance. And in ethnically divided societies like ours, that resistance can become more pronounced, depending on who is in office and who is executing the transformation. Hence, the scorn by some members of the other ethnic group for Bornham notwithstanding his legacy of success in many, many areas. Yesterday I was reading an article. It was in the Hindus. Before I go to the article, because you always hear the cry, and I think you mentioned it yesterday, about Bornum banning flour to affect East Indians in Guyana, how they couldn't make roti and whatever else, and banning dal, so they couldn't make the dal and so on. You know, people will tell you that yellow dal is a rarity in India. Mostly in India, if you get dal, it will be of a green variety, whether it's mung or one of the other different thing. But yet the yellow peas making dal, I don't think is something that is familiar in India. Maybe certain parts of India. But to suggest that he was banning these stuff, and we all know up to now that flour, we know the history of flour not being imported. Flour wasn't banned. Flour was restricted, so to speak, and Stationerine had made that pellucid, as indeed also Nascimento in one of his rare commentaries on Bornum. But that you also indicated that it's not only Indian Guyanese who are affected, that African Guyanese also use flour in a variety of products that they made, including bread, bakes, cakes, and so forth. But when you read the literature, you will find how, particularly in African societies, how their traditional foods were destroyed as things like aid, especially PL4 rated aid, were given out freely, thus moving people off their lands and moving people away from their traditional foods, crops, and everything else. So I was saying to you that I was reading this article in the Hindustani Times yesterday. And bear with me when I read what it says here about white flour. It says, though we often hear that white flour or the products made from it are bad for our health, the reason for them being bad are unknown to most of us. Processed foods like white flour, refined sugar, and soft drinks are widely available and mostly unavoidable. Wheat in its refined form is harmful to the body, as it is not only fattening, but also the root cause of several diseases. Food manufacturers skillfully remove the endosperm of the wheat, white flour, from the germ, wheat flour, and the bran, wheat bran. Therefore, foods made from refined flour, sugar, and oil borrow nutrients from the body in order to aid their own absorption, thereby depleting the body's reserves of vitamins and minerals. Even if the packet of the white flour that you buy reads enriched flour, it only means that 4 to 5 vitamins have been added, while 10 have been taken away, which means they have been lost during processing. Wheat flour has a high glycemic index of 71, thus containing twice the number of calories as compared to unprocessed and low GI foods. Harmful effects of wheat flour as refined flour has a high glycemic index. It releases sugar into the body stream quickly. This causes a sharp insulin response, which over a period of time, with prolonged consumption of processed and refined foods, causes inflammation, insulin resistance, and eventually type 2 diabetes. And they also say that fried wheat flour products are more harmful. When foods containing wheat flour are fried, foods like samosas, chaklis, noodles, kachori, and pasta, the body gets an overdose of fat and refined carbohydrates. This disrupts the metabolism rate of your body and causes inflammation, hyperinsulinism, insulinism, and insulin resistance, which eventually leads to heart disease, arthritis, Alzheimer's disease, and even cancer. Right? So that is the product which large numbers of Guyanese blaming Burnham for restricting without understanding the harmful effects of it on humans as compared to natural flours like cassava, rice, sweet potatoes, and you mentioned, yes, there's some of the others, edos, tanyas, yams, all these that are what they used to call slave foods, because the slaves were allowed to cultivate a little kitchen garden by their huts, or the barracoons, or whatever they used to call it. And those are the foods that they used to grow. And up to today, those foods are welcome, especially if you cook a good metamji, right? Sundays growing up used to be soup day, right? When you would pound plantain and make fufu, and you have a big pot of soup that is ready for the family after you return from church. You don't remember those days, Kidak. You don't have them days.
Why not?
I don't know. I just asked him.
This box and I go, Bano. Me know about fast food. Soup start cook since Saturday morning and you can't for Friday for Sunday afternoon.
Yes. But I think, what is contradictory is that CARICOM has come up with this wild goal of 25 by 25. And like I said, sometime on this program sometime back, CARICOM has perhaps even more slogans than UN. Every day UN has a slogan for, So I don't know what study they did about the efficacy of this, but they've come up with this wild 25 by 25, which means cutting imports by 25% by 2025. Last I heard is that this goal is unrealistic and will not be achieved. I don't know if they have set a new date, if it's now 25 by 2030 or 25 by 2050. But the reality of it is that we're talking about a small group of nation states that are young in independence, most of whom depend on a tourist trade for their sustenance, and hence tremendous imports to cultivate tourists, to give tourists what they want. So I don't know how they're going to be cutting imports, at least on the food side. They can't cut imports on intermediate goods because most of them don't produce things like fuel and so forth. Even we who produce fuel don't use that fuel that we produce. We export it and then import fuel. They can't cut capital goods because there are not many capital goods of worth that are produced in the Caribbean, and CARICOM, let us say, that will include Guyana and Suriname and so forth. So I don't know which 25 by 25 they're talking about. Food imports, what are they going to cut? Milk, cheese, butter, dal, flour. What are they going to cut to make this 25 by 25? And who's serious about it, about this cut? Guyana, where is Guyana? Where is Guyana in this 25 by 25? At least in the FCH program, there would have been serious attempts to make that 25 and better, because when flour and so on were restricted, there was serious attempt to replace those with local products. Everybody is aware of things like black eye out of Kimbio, and red beans, and mung, which is a kind of dal, and cotton at Kimbio, and cassava in the northwest, and so forth. Even potatoes, some of the finest potatoes I've ever seen growing in Region 8 and so forth. It's just the difficulty of transportation and so forth, of getting them out. Of peanuts, famous in Rupununi, cashew nuts and so on that are famous in Rupununi. Of oil, palm oil, and so forth. All of these things. And of course, who can forget when the likes of Guyana and so forth were in GMC? How we had things like local ham and bacon, and with GMC employing trucks, purchasing farmers' produce at prices that would allow them to reinvest and plant more. There was so much food. On a trip from Puerto Rico to Adventure, you will see all of those pumpkin and planting on the stellings at Lake One and Wakenham, waiting for boats. In fact, some of them waited so long they started to rot. Again, issues of transportation. So it wasn't a question of food. Food was there. What was not there was a level of acceptability. What was not there was a level of unity, even surrounding an issue of food security. We know about plantain flour, but plantain flour used to be an imported stuff in this country. People don't know that. We used to import plantain flour that we used to give to babies as porridge. We used to import that in this country, even though BG was known for its plantain. People could tell you a BG plantain was some of the finest plantain that you could find anywhere in the world. And we're not talking about that thing you guys in Brooklyn is buying, that tasteless stuff. We're talking of a BG plantain that had taste, that had the nutrients and everything in it. But yet we didn't think about extruding the water out of plantain and grind it into flour to make our own local plantain flour that we could have given to babies. Until Bonham came along. And we much prefer to have bought Cerex and Farine and all these things coming from overseas. On all these little jars of baby foods that used to be imported, compared to using local foods like pumpkin and so on. Many of us turn our nose on pumpkin. Even today, many of us turn our nose on pumpkin. One of the easiest of vegetables to be grown anywhere. He's one man, you don't have to plant anything, throw some seeds and he start growing while all over. So it's not that we, at least in Guyana, can't turn 25 by 25. But we got obstacles, tremendous obstacles. One of the obstacles we got is that the PPP having torn the nation against the local foods to spite Bonham, can't turn back the clock. They can't turn back the clock. They tried it. Because I remember when Robert Prasad, I believe, was Minister of Agriculture. They tried setting up a mill, I think somewhere near Sukwebo, if my memory serves me well, to grind rice to make rice flour. I don't know what happened to that project. Don't hear anything about it. They scoffed at President Granger's plantain chip. They call him the plantain chip man. You see, that is what into our psyche. That is what we have done. But we prefer to import plantain chips from Costa Rica and so forth. But when we talk about setting up plantain chip factories in Guyana and growing our own plantains and making our plantain chips, we scoff at it. Right? It is easy to pelt epithets and so on. Carl Granger, the plantain chip man, and you can grow the economy by plantain chip. You better believe if we have enough plantations growing plantain in this country, we could export plantain and become a viable agriculture economy. Not only dependent on rice. So how are we going to get to this 25 by 25? When your smallest of children don't even want to eat anything you cook locally. They don't want to eat pepper pot. They don't want to eat cook up rice. They don't want to eat any food that got in vegetables. To get them to eat even a small amount of vegetables, you got to coat it with some sugary product. Big people, many of them grew up on some of the foods I'm talking about. They're too busy these days to cook. So they head for the fast food place. Many of them head into the Chinese shop. Eating food that coming out of some freezer or something and then reheated in some wok or something. You ever wonder how Chinese shops are able to serve you within seconds when you go and ask for food? Well, they just go and cook their food?
Well, I know it's overnight food, and I usually say, try that at our Creole restaurants, and they're going to cost you. You can't sell nobody overnight cook up at your Creole restaurant. They're going to cost you. But they're buying it from the Chinese frozen for weeks.
Exactly. You understand? And the innumerable fast food places, that litter the country now. There's no warning at these places to say the benefits or otherwise to your health of eating fast food regularly. Of course, they're not going to do that. That is not something that is going to promote or drive sales. Even though when it was done to cigarette, there was the Surgeon General saying that cigarette is dangerous to your health and so on. I don't recall particularly in Asia that it meant much of a difference to the people who smoked. But you have all of these, even in a tourism independent country like Guyana. In other words, we're not as dependent on tourism as the islands. Where you have this plethora of fast food joints, where people now no longer cooking. They head into these fast food places. You remember quoting and you get your bicycle and you tow your girl down and you will go by some place and you buy a drink and something else. Now you're hearing you're getting calls for stop by Kentucky and bring me a 6-piece and so on.
One girl you're quoting, you got to carry a bucket for the family. So what? This is a glutton girl by 10-piece chicken for she alone.
So the point is, how are we going to get 25 by 25? When we even educate our people about what we growing, its nutritional value and why they should be eating what we're growing. When we are not doing any serious agricultural research to make some of the foods that we are growing more palatable, and when I go abroad, I can eat a tomato just like that. But try eating a local tomato, seeds and all. It will back you. So what it is that we haven't learned when it comes to foods, when it comes to soils and so on, to make our foods more palatable. And how are we going to get this 25 by 25 when they have this massive competition of our imports? So you remember yesterday you called out some figures of our imports. There's no relent to the importation on the food side. There's no relent, and there will be no relent. There will be no relent. And outside of rice, there's nothing to shout about when it comes to export in terms of the food category in Guyana. And with our porous borders, which we seem unwilling, I'm not saying unable, unwilling to defend. We have massive unaccounted for imports coming in from Brazil. I already mentioned, I think, the tomatoes. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned a truck that they were loading. I think it was with beef or something in the sort, to come to Guyana. And these things apparently are entering Guyana as uncustomed goods. I don't want to say it's a free-for-all at our borders, but something is not right about our frontiers. Suriname to Guyana. And since Suriname is in a crisis, on the IMF and so forth, it can be that we are taking away food from Suriname and sending it to Guyana. But my understanding is that there are warehouses established in Suriname that accumulates food via imports and so on and gets it across to Guyana. If we are doing so much for the chicken people, why is it that chicken is being smuggled from Suriname? Tons of this chicken being smuggled from Suriname, via Suriname, I should say, to Guyana. Is this how we are going to cut food imports 25 by 25? 25 is a couple months away. Are we really serious with this sloganeering? But yet, when you look at the investment in agriculture over the last 4 years, it will be unparalleled in the history of Guyana. So you have a scenario where you are investing more to achieve less. In the 1970s and 1980s, people were eating more locally grown foods than they are doing today. Like I said to you, it's a struggle to get people to eat locally grown foods. It is a struggle, huge struggle. And of course, certain diseases in Guyana, which, as some people say, used to associate with old people, are now inherent in young people, and very young people. Diabetes for one. Diabetes is not the old people disease anymore. Young people are suffering from diabetes. And you know what is the amazing thing? Because we don't have that screening program, early screening program, and because we still don't feel that young people can suffer from diabetes, we're not catching it very early, especially in the young people, and to be able to treat it. And that is sad. Heart disease. Young people are dying from heart diseases. Asthma. The increase in asthma over the last couple of years is astonishing. I'm amazed at so often of the people I see who are suffering from asthma. And you have all these different kinds of diseases that will come from the fact that while we talk about 25 by 25, we are not really doing anything to push 25 by 25. And we're not serious about 25 by 25. And I'm not worried about the islands and so forth. I kind of understand and appreciate the fact that they have a tourist-dependent economy. And they have to import to keep the tourists happy. But when you come to a country like Guyana, who in the 60s we used to be proud to call the breadbasket of the Caribbean, and when we know for sure, above all the noise and the shouting and the hate, that we used to produce in this country when it comes to edible foods. And we used to encourage you to cultivate your backyards, your front yards, your alleyways, and where you had none of these, to get oil drums. And instead of playing sweet pan music, cultivate crops that you can eat and exchange with your neighbors. And when we either change the law or amended the regulation to encourage urban cattle rearing and urban animal rearing, because you know, in the old Georgetown, it was illegal to rear animals. It was illegal to rear animals. So that you could get good, fresh cow's milk and buffalo milk and so forth. And how are you going to get 25 by 25 when the government, in its typical role and form, enters in August the 22nd, and soon thereafter proceeds to raid the raid program? By now, everybody should be aware that the raid program was designed to revitalize agriculture in Afro-Guyanese communities of Mocha, Bedford-Acton, Buxton, Ithaca. And that project was doing fine. It was doing well. But in comes the PPP and destroys the project for whatever reason. And it couldn't be that it's because 4 black communities were identified. Because the RAID 1 project, in the RAID 1 project, 4 Indian communities were identified. including Luluni, Ruby, Ungoak, Perico. So how do you have a sensible agriculture program that will seek to replace all these foods that you're importing, all these processed foods, all these foods that have preservative? Do you know, for example, that formalin that comes from formaldehyde is used as a food preservative? Do you know that, Gaddafi?
No, I didn't.
Yes. Do you know what formalin is used for?
Being dead.
That's correct. It is used to preserve the dead. But formalin is also a food preservative. The more fresh food you can eat, it's the better. But we don't hear every day an educational program or message, eat local, or even buy local or so on. We don't hear those things. So how are you going to do 25 by 25? How are you going to do 25 by 25? You don't hear any one of these things. You just wake up on 25 by 25 is going to be there, staring in your face. We don't hear any one of these things. And all those people, do you know, you can go to UK. I don't know much about the United States. But do you know you can walk into Tesco, Sainsbury, and all these places and purchase black pudding? You can go there and purchase white pudding and black pudding in the supermarket. So while we are scoffing at what we call slave foods, the white man is taking our slave foods and selling it back to us and making a tremendous profit at it. But it's our education that is missing. We're spending a lot of money in agriculture, no doubt about it. But are we making the right choices in the agricultural sector? Are we spending money where we should be spending it? Do we have the right mix of agriculture? Because we seem to spend a lot of time on rice. We seem to throw a lot of money on rice and sugar. While rice is doing fine, sugar is eating up billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, while idle lands remain idle. But these same lands can be used for alternative crops and so on. And are we sure that we are encouraging our people to grow something in their backyards or in their alleyways? Or is this a Bornum thing and we don't want to tell people what to do? But meanwhile, we're building plenty of hospitals to receive those people when they get sick. So instead of preventative care, preventative primary health care, we're waiting for them when they get sick. We build plenty more hospitals. So when they get sick, we are ready for them. But you can't do 25 by 25 in this manner that we are doing. And let's not fool ourselves. Let us forget all this sloganeering and do what we have to do. Forget all this sloganeering. Let us do what we have to do. And what we have to do is encourage our people to grow foods that they should eat. Sell the rest to your neighbors. And if you're a big person growing like the food, sell them to the market. GMC must become, in addition to what it's doing, go back to the Guyana days, whereas you encourage more and more people to grow foods and so on, and a lot of it now, the supply becomes a lot, that the GMC will buy it up and give market prices, guaranteed prices, and that we will set up milling and factories and manufacturing and so on to make certain that these products don't go to waste. Are young mothers aware of feeding their children pumpkin instead of those little glass bottles of, what do you call it, Gorba baby foods? Are young mothers aware that they can feed their children these little pumpkins and so forth? That these things were produced during the Barnum days as substitutes? And that we laugh and scoff at that, that they laugh and scoff at Barnum. But Barnum had set up places like Quality Foods, for which people like Vic Udit and Vashni, which her name was Vashni Warner or something like that, had done human work in producing local foods at Quality Foods, which I think was either an arm of GPC or related to GPC or some sort of thing. Where are those equivalent? Where are those equivalent corporations in the current milieu? We're talking 25 by 25, but where are those? Some progress have been made by people like DDL in that they have been able to do topco, and they are into milk, right? They're doing some milk, but albeit they are importing some of the milk and making it reconstituted.
And I think Carambol is one of their big exports too.
Good. So you see, the point is that a lot of these things, first we start at the subsistence level. We start at the subsistence, which is doing your own thing in your alleys and your backyard. Then we encourage those who got land, reasonable sized land. We encourage them with seeds, drainage, and all these kind of things to get those lands going. And then we revitalize, reactivate all those cooperatives that got land. And it's growing busy grass and whatever kind of grass that we got out there. Again, we give them incentives, seeds and tractor and, to get them going there. And we restart the rail project and extend the rail project. So all those backlands in Buxton and Moko and all those villages, you go there, you see all them growing huge grass and so on. You could get those going. And then of course then you go to the big guys who got all this land, or the government got all this land, and all over the people who can manage big thing, and you use that for the export. And then you set up your small factories. You cost Barnum, but Barnum had cassava factory at Lookout. Barnum had Litco to do milk with farms at Ibini and Mobli's on the highway. Barnum had factory to produce palm oil. I mean, the damn thing was so yellow sometimes. You couldn't even see the fish. You'd see more the bubble than the fish. But But when the fish was finished frying and so on, it tasted better than the regular oil. And palm oil was a richer oil and soybean oil and so on, richer than the oils that they were being imported. And over West Moraro, I think at Islip Estate or something like that, they were trying with cheese. I wonder whatever happened to IAST. I don't hear about that place anymore. I don't know if it still existed. And so on. But if it exists, I don't know what research is doing. I don't know who it's working with. I don't know if it works with Guyana School of Agriculture, if it works with the Ministry of Agriculture and so on, in trying to look at foods and and so on. I don't really, but I don't know if IASP exists and what the hell it's doing. I don't know. I don't know when last it produced a report to Parliament and so forth. But I was in the thick of things during the 1972-74. They experimented a lot with clays, toilet bowls, and so on. And Boredom had the Chinese come here and set up clay brick factories at Belleau and other sites, so that the housing program wasn't dependent on imports from abroad. And he had Demerara woods where they had a kiln to dry the wood. So the point is, you can laugh and scoff at Bonham, you can hate him and so on, and some of them they will hate Jesus Christ all. But the point is, you got so much money now, and you really don't know what to do with it. You really don't know what to do with it. Because you are not seeing that integrated plan that would allow 25 by 25. Even if you ship it down now to 2030, you're not seeing that integrated plan. The factories that are going to be set up, right? The produce that will come from the fields and so on to feed these factories. You're not seeing that integration. The backward and forward linkages. So let us not waste time in 25 by 25. You're not educating people about 25 by 25. And more, as they watch television, you are going to get the possibles and the impossibles, the Waguru steaks, and whatever else are going to now dominate the cuisine. It is not too late for the government to reorient agriculture in a manner where from subsistence farming to plantation agriculture, we can say transform Guyana in another 10 years, because I don't see it happening in the 5, another 10 years into an integrated agricultural framework where we can be proud of the produce that we are producing in agriculture. You see, this thing about last week's Friday with the GSA, in fact, that article also said that the GSA students were also developed rice milk, coconut jelly ice cream, coconut tortillas, and chunky pineapple popsicles. So there's a range of things that can be done. My fear is, are these things just being done as samples? Are they just being done as projects so that you can pass the exams and so forth? Or are there they're now going to be taken to the next level where they can be produced in some numbers.
That's where you need an enabling environment, access to funding and so on.
That is correct. That is why when I continue to preach that with the number of small business grants that this government claims that it has extended, we should be at full employment level in this country. We should be producing so many things in this country as to make shortages a thing of the past. But you also need education. You really think that we have it in us here in Guyana to walk in a supermarket and buy a bread made from rice, notwithstanding what I have said this morning, notwithstanding that what people know already? You really think we have that in us there? The people have been indoctrinated to believe that rice flour is bad for them. And they associate rice flour with boredom. So many people born today do not have a clue to boredom. But so many people try to keep his memory alive by dragging him through the mud. And while the likes of the Vincent Alexanders and so on through the Boredom Foundation do a magnificent job, it's not enough. The PNC has to do far more in educating the populace about boredom and its adventures. That's where, as far as I'm concerned, that they are lacking. It's as if some of them don't want to be associated with boredom themselves too. But people aren't going to walk in a supermarket and buy a rice flour bread. But as you rightly said, and as I've said before, in Barbados, it's a luxury. It's a luxury. It's the first bread that disappears from the shelves. And are we in this country experimenting with anything agricultural? Again, how are we going to beat 25 by 25? When it's easy to import all of that things, all. And the imports competing on the same level with the locals because they remove all the taxes, VAT and import duty and everything on the imports because they say you got to do the same thing for local. So local agriculture ain't got a hope and a ghost and a prayer because they can't compete with the imports. So how are we going to get 25 by 25? They can't compete. You can tell people how much you like, especially the urbanites. That cow milk, fresh cow milk is better than that thing coming from reconstituted or whatever coming from New Zealand or Australia or Ireland or whatever. And they will chase you. They much prefer to get it out of the box than out of the can. And I'm a free advertiser for DDL. The Tapo, I think the Tapo juices are some of the finest. I mean, a bit sweet, you know, they have to work on that, right? But I suspect when it's natural, that's the sweet. But I'm sure they can work on it. But I like the fact that it's pulp and, you know, it tends to stay fresh and so on. But and I'm happy it's taken a hold in the society. It shows what can be done. But how many people are willing to do? How many people are willing to do? If we had a road from I think it's Kurpakari, because in our project, we were doing the fourth phase, which is now being done by the Brazilians. Going right to the Brazil border. Look at the lands that can be opened up. Arable lands that can be opened up. Look at the kind of products that can be grown because of the different climate. And the fact that now we got a road that we could bring that produce to the markets and the market centers. Yet you're not hearing anything by the government to complete the road after the Brazilians would have finished the road up to, I don't know if it's going to Kurupakari or not, because our thing has Kurupakari and a permanent bridge going across the Kurupakari. They had scuttled that, I believe, and they're not building the bridge. I don't think the road is going till up to Kurupakari. But wherever it's going, that has to be a critical component on our road to diversification. But we don't hear anything about that. 25 by 25 is dead in the water.
Still work.
And even if we try to 2030, it's dead in the water because of the numerous problems that will confront it and the fact that we are our own worst enemy. It perhaps will be easier to achieve 25 by 25, even in Barbados that is tourist dependent, because they didn't have to go through the trauma that we had to go through here in an ethnically divided society. And that is why it is easy for them to accept rice flour bread. I went to Barbados in 1972 as a Boy Scout. That's Scout Jamboree there. And I was absolutely pleasantly surprised with the way they treated with slave foods. It was always a delicacy. Every day. And then when you start getting all these different fast food places, those delicacies disappeared. And then Barbados then started to rank as among the highest per capita nation with diabetes. That's what's going to happen. That's what is going to happen. Every now and then a political official runs to some place and gives them a feel-good statement. We can plant 10,000 breadfruit trees. We can plant 100,000 this and that. I don't know if anybody don't go back and say, well, listen, chief, we went to some place and we said 10,000, and this is 6 months past and we haven't done anything and so on. But nobody really cares. These are feel-good statements, but as to whether people really mean it and whether they really want to do it, it's two different things. Do we have programs extolling the benefits of breadfruit? Do we have program extolling the virtues of a good diet in the morning, a good morning diet of breadfruit with, say, a nice saltfish, that Bangomeri saltfish or trout saltfish or some sort of thing that is topped off with some nice bush tea? In fact, we should stop calling that thing bush tea and call them by the real name, because those teas are some fantastic teas and they are good. They are good for the body and they cleanse and all kinds of story. But I said my piece on that just before we end off, because it's 9 o'clock coming again. I want to go to the second thing that I want to talk about this morning, and that is, it has to do with your first part on Tuesday about education. And I couldn't help but smile, because last week Thursday at his press conference, Jagdio ran out to play a clip, a 19-second clip of an interview I had with I think it might have been a DPI journalists back at that time. Of course, when you want to get something aligned with whatever narrative you want to portray, you will just take that particular piece and put it out there. He made sure not to play the entire thing. That would not have been in his interests. But let us concentrate on the same 19-second clip that he played and show how far we have degenerated in this country from a literacy rate of 90-something% to 80-something% when last I heard about it. In that 19 seconds of clip, which purported to say that I was against cash transfer, hear what this 19-second clip said. Quote, he said, which is me, if everybody in the population should get a cash transfer, I can tell you, no, that will never fly. Let me repeat that again. Quote, 19 seconds. He said, which is me, if everybody in the population should get a cash transfer, I can tell you no, that will never fly. You understand that? Correct?
Explain.
If everybody in the population is expecting a cash transfer, I can tell you no, that will not fly. And this was being said well before Forsyth. This was being said well before Forsyth.
And not everybody would have included the minors and everybody, right? Everybody.
Not only that, everybody in the population means you have more than 800,000.
Right.
Or how much people you got. I can tell you now that will not fly. What is wrong with that statement? Does that statement tell you that I'm against cash transfer? Is that the level of logical thinking? Is that reasoning? It is telling you that we will not countenance everybody in the population getting a cash off because it can't fly. You can't do the maths for 800,000 people or 900,000 people, whichever is that, compared to what you are expecting from oil revenues. And you're trying to claim how you were always for cash transfers and the new coalition government was not for cash transfers and so forth. I want to tell you, here's the report by Gina, July the 18th, 2016. This is well before even the Buxton proposal. July the 18th, 2016. Let me quote, about 9,000 families living under difficult circumstances throughout Guyana will be supported through the Ministry of Social Protection Conditional Cash Transfer Program, which is set to roll out soon. This was July 18, 2016. The Ministry of Social Protection was rolling out a conditional cash transfer program. That was the name of the program. This new program will see the ministry conducting a needs and risk assessment of the families to determine what form of assistance is best needed to decrease the dependence on public assistance and ultimately reduce poverty. Isn't that the essence of the Buxton proposal? Since 2016, the coalition government had in mind cash transfer. This was 9,000 families at an average of 3.3. That is 33,000 persons we were thinking about then. Small but significant for just one ministry. And people like to say Granger was against cash transfer. But when David Granger was interviewed by Demerara Waves, or Demerara Waves carried his interview October the 9th, 2019, quote, President Granger on Wednesday sought to dispel concerns that he is opposed to direct cash transfer of some oil revenues to Guyana. He said APNU is not against cash grants, but it needs to know more so it can make a proper announcement to the people of Guyana. We asked for more information on the details as to who will be eligible and how it will be disbursed. And that right now is the devil in this government. Even in this one-off ad hoc hurry program that is brought to the public. Read today's paper, there's a letter there. The person is so afraid he didn't want his name put. But he has identified 5 or 6 different problems with this thing. Many of them I've already stated on this program, but I will restate them again. First of all, how are you going to say this money is to be given to Guyanese residents? So not Guyanese residents, to Guyanese. And up to this day, you haven't clarified that it will be Guyanese resident again. So if you are not going to clarify that, how many Guyanese are you targeting? How many Guyanese are you targeting? I mean, who does that kind of budgeting? You don't even know how much Guyanese. You know 100,000. That's the only number you know. 100,000. But you don't know. You don't know how many Guyanese. But if you are putting the word resident, you may have a fair idea how many Guyanese residents are there. Then, of course, you come up with this magic cutoff date of 4th of January 2024. Then you are in yourself saying that the cash transfer is to assist with the cost of living, among other objectives. So if it's going to assist with the cost of living in 2024, you are almost at the end of 2024, but yet you're going to have a cutoff date of 4th of January. The man or woman, whoever it is in the letter, is now recommending the same thing that I recommended, December 31st, 2024, as the cutoff age. That seems logical and fair and everything else. Then, of course, the identification of Guyanese. You said passport and you said ID card, fair enough. But how many people got passport or ID cards? In the absence of those, are you suggest that people are not going to be getting the grant? You think all those people who sleeping on the seawall and under the on Guyana stores and Guyana post office and wherever else and walking around the street and night shelter and all, you think those people got ID cards and they got passports? So you're suggesting that you're not going to pay? And of course, he said people in the hinterland, many of them don't have ID card. And then he said, how are you going to stop discrimination? Because he said, especially in the hinterland, when you are using the two shows to identify who are the others and so forth. He said during the COVID grant, many people were victimized. And I can see that happening again. I can see that happening again. How are you going to get rid of that? How are you going to stop people from getting 2 and 3 different grants? You don't know what register they are using to compile these people. So how are you going to stop people from getting more than 1 grant? And then what about the quote-unquote dispute resolution mechanism? Is there going to be one? So they got a lot of problems even with this one-off. And so I continue to see a conflation of this one-off with the more broad principle of cash grant. And I think we do a disservice to the whole issue of cash grant when we do that. Let us deal singularly with this one-off. let us say it's a done deal. It's 100,000, but let us see if we can convince the government to refine it to make certain that those who should be getting it will get it. And then let's go to part 2, which is a more permanent cash transfer program that is informed by whatever studies, models, and so forth, and that is aimed at lifting people out of poverty. Let us deal with these two things separately. And even Jagyo hinted that there will be more cash transfers in the future. So let us take a win as a win. If there are going to be more cash transfers in the future, it must be on a more scientific, structured basis. It can't be this one-half run-out program. And by the way, he is claiming this thing and trying to denigrate my efforts by suggesting that I call somebody at finance and they tell me how they're working on 100,000 per adult, and I rushed out on Sunday on Nationwide and thinking. But I mean, look, Kedaki. But I don't know. It might. I definitely on YouTube and so forth. But maybe you could cut it out and put it on your page. That this issue about 100,000 was made on the 10th of October, Thursday the 10th of October, at about 8, nearly 9 o'clock in the morning, well before Ali delivered his tome to the Parliament in the very same day in the afternoon. Well before.
I have the transcript, you know. I have the transcript.
So please, Mr. Dagdo, but see, somebody misinformed me. Because I know you don't watch Nation Watch. Somebody misinformed him, and somebody missed the Thursday morning. So he should go, if he hasn't gone already, and clap 2 backs on the one who make it look like what he's not supposed to look like when he came out with that statement. Instead of coming up with some Nancy story, but I call somebody finance. Why am I going to call it Ministry of Finance? Let me tell you something, man. The people at Ministry of Finance don't talk to me. They were told not to speak to the Minister of Finance, the former Minister of Finance, because their jobs will be at stake. I was told that. As far back as 3 years ago, I was told that. So nobody don't speak, nobody could call up Ministry of Finance. At the fair, at the church fair this year, a staffer told me she would like her son to be tutored in maths. She knows I tutor students in maths. She said, but Mr. Jordan, I can't take you because if they're here, they can think. You know how they're going to think. So I can't send you by you. That is the fair within which they have put the staffers there. So they're not about to talk to me. And why in case would I be calling them? Why on earth would I be calling them about some 100,000 when I didn't even know that they were going to switch from 200,000 to 100,000? Why the hell would I be calling them? I mean, this kind of nonsense story that is do people's integrity, and put their integrity in shambles. Big people should get off of that stuff. Look, if you don't want to give the opposition never went out begging for credit over this. In fact, this is not even what the opposition people generally wanted. They're begging for credit over something like this. But if you got to, if you have to just give credit as it is, acknowledge in passing that this is something that the opposition wanted at the level of cash transfers. This is our version of it and so on. We're not begging for any credit over this. I certainly am not. That they are going to pay out some money, that's fine. Pay out the money. But let us get something more structured where this is concerned. All right? So Kidaki, that is all for today. I'm glad I last out.
Thank you. Let me share a quote from the Thursday morning program because I have the text excerpt here. I think this year and every year subsequently, but since this is a speech for this year, that the president will announce a one-off salary just like the discipline services to every public servant. But since this would exclude private sector workers who also contribute to taxes and are entitled, instead of the one-half tax-free bonus, then a cash grant of $100,000 be awarded to everybody, except all those who would have been recipients of cash grants through the year. So $100,000 can be given so everyone on the tax payroll, perhaps, or however they want to do it, has a cash grant. So to make certain that private sector workers also benefit. Because when you're given one-off tax-free bonus salary, only public servants get it. And that is, I'm sure it infuriates private sector workers or the self-employed workers. So we have to have something that is all-inclusive and all-encompassing, all-embracing. So I hope that we will be able to announce a cash grant of $100,000 to all adults except all those who would have received cash grants already during the year for whatever reason. I hope, notwithstanding the huge sums of money that have been thrown into the agriculture sector, that we can spend better and we can spend wiser. And you look at the numbers in the agriculture sector in the half-year report and in the previous budgets, we are spending a lot of money for less or for little. That's a direct quote from that morning's program.
Exactly. You understand? So he has his people listening again today, and let them cut out and say, Chief, you look like you got a boo-boo. You understand? We get a boo-boo here, and either you brush it aside or you're going to apologize. And apologies is not in those people's books, so don't expect one.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan.
Thanks for that. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, viewers.
Friday, November 1st, the place to be is at Club Twilight. Yours truly, Trinidad Madman. I will be coming to Guyana for the first time, live and alive in living colors, in Buxton at Twilight Sideline Dam for an event called Short Pants and Skirts. So ladies, all they come out in all their numbers, Twilight Sideline Dam in Buxton, East Coast Guyana. Buxton is going to be on a shutdown. So ladies, get all your short pants and skirts. Friday, November 1st, the place to be is at Club Twilight.
Comes out your son. You burn this wine when I want you shine.